Hi, Mr. Z here to announce the final perspective project for this marking period. This one's going to be a little bit different because it's going to combine some of the perspective drawings that we've been doing with some of the observational drawing exercises that we've been doing as well. For this project, you're going to need a piece of paper and something hard because you're going to need to probably work in your lap. You're probably not going to be able to do this on a desk or table. I'm going to grab a pencil and I'm going to grab a ruler. And what I've done is I taped my paper to a drawing board. You can just put it on a book or something hard. I recommend something smooth so that you're not getting a bunch of texture getting in the way of your drawing as you're creating it. And to complete this drawing, you're going to need to venture outside of the place where you might normally do your artwork. So I'm actually going to go into the hallway of the building because that's going to create some really good perspective angles for me to see. You can find some other place in your home. If there's a hallway in your building, that might be a good place to set up. You want to make sure that there's a good amount of detail for you to capture. I would also say going outside is an option as well, if you have a good way to do that and a safe place to sit that you won't be disturbed. Okay, here we are in the hallway with all the wonderful hallway noises that we're hearing. What I want to start off by doing is measuring some of the main angles that I'm seeing in the hallway. So that would be like the corners of the floor and the ceiling. So I'm going to start off with this one. I'm seeing that it's quite vertical, but not quite. It goes up at about, let's call that maybe a 75-degree angle. And I want to go ahead and draw that in, just like this, using my ruler. So I've measured it with the pencil, and now I am drawing it on the paper with the ruler. That's my vertical up there. And as you can see, this is really kind of like a one-point perspective drawing. And the number of perspective points that you see is really going to depend on what angle you're drawing at. It might be a 2-point perspective drawing. It might even be a 3-point perspective drawing, depending on where you're looking. Here's that top and bottom up there. And I can see that this shape of that visible wall is pretty much a square. So I'm going to go ahead and make it into a square here. Something similar. This angle. This angle. Now, in true one-point perspective fashion, all these lines should converge on the same point. And we can kind of check that to see if it's true. Pretty much. So we've got something like a vanishing point right here. And that's going to help us to keep drawing. But of course, we mainly want to rely on our eyes. So once I've got these 4 basic lines to show the corners of the space, or the edges of the space, I can go in and start to add details. So I'm going to start far away, and I'm going to add this point that comes out here until the window. And now that I've got that vanishing point, I can start to kind of understand what to expect in terms of how far out it goes.
So the vanishing point will create some predictable behaviors in the physics of the space that I'm occupying. Which means also that this top edge here is going to line up with that one and that one. And then I can go ahead and draw them as a single line. And then I can come back. Let's see. I have to draw the depth of this window well here. So that's going to be like, if I just look at the distance between this width and then this width and then this width and then this one, I can start to divide up this part of my drawing. So that's the depth of that little window area. And I can continue looking for the next one, which is even thinner. Now at the top you can see that there's this kind of thickness of the wall that comes down, so the window goes even farther out there. So that's something that I can draw too. Next we're going to look for some of the other verticals that we're seeing. What is the angle of the tops of the windowsills and radiators here? It's below the horizontal, so I know it needs to go up. You can always compare it to your horizontals and verticals if you're not sure which direction to take a certain angle. So that's where my horizontal would be. And I know that the radiators and windowsills have to be slightly below that. And we can start to add in some of these angles of the radiators here. Just noticing that really starts to give the sense of three-dimensional space now. So I want you to keep going like this. Get as much detail as you can. If I were going to continue, I might draw these lines, get the bricks, the lights, even these bricks down here, the stripe on the floor, the markings for social distancing on the floor, this exit sign here, all kinds of things. These are all relevant details that I want you to try to capture. Using only lines, but get as much as possible. And don't forget about doors and windows. These are all relevant things that I want you to try to include in your drawing. Notice also how I used a horizontal layout. That's because your body is kind of naturally calibrated to look left and right more than up and down in terms of orientation. So use a landscape orientation, a horizontal orientation for your drawing. I can't wait to see what you do. This is going to be great. Best of luck.